Welcome to The Dose, your weekly hit of inspiration to fuel your confidence, tackle life's challenges, and live with purpose. I'm Dayle, here to share real stories, powerful insights, and practical steps to help you lead a life that feels true and empowered. Let's dive in. Your dose starts now. I've been thinking today about how God often forges things in the fire of our life, and then He strengthens us. I call it the character building seasons when we're going through those moments. And recently, one of our sons was going through what I'd call a real character building season. He's at uni at the moment, pouring his energy into both his studies and his sport, striving to break through to the next level of his performance. And at the same time, he's been searching for a part-time job, but has been feeling the pinch of not having enough income. That's what happens when you're at uni and, you're studying and can often feel like, oh my gosh, everything's happening at once in my life. Meanwhile, several of our daughters, for those who don't know, we have 6 kids and 4 of them are girls, were navigating their own challenges, relationship issues and work stresses, and they're tired and feeling a little grumpy, and it left them feeling overwhelmed. I love our kids. They're incredible, talented and beautiful humans who we're very extremely proud of. But as a parent, I naturally want to be there for them in whatever way I can. Yet as I was praying about each one of them and the things they were going through recently, especially those having a hard time, I felt like God was whispering, don't worry, I'm working and I am forging some things in them and they're stronger than you think. In other words, hands off, Mama Bear. Pray, support and encourage, but let me work through this. Let me work in them what they're going through. I'm building something great in the midst of their struggles, and they'll come out on the other side stronger and with a deeper understanding and relationship with me. We just often as parents or just, loved ones, we look at them and we want to make everything comfortable and okay. But it's just like when little ones learn how to walk and they take a few steps and you're there holding their hands. But as they get stronger and their backs and their legs get stronger, you've got to let them do it themselves. And yes, sometimes they splat on the ground, but you know what? You dust them off and you get them back up and they keep on walking and then they run and then they're off and running and off they go into life. And that's how it is with God too. He wants us to trust Him with those people around us and also in our life, that He's got it, but He will forge things in us and make us strong even in the difficult things. There's a parable of the butterfly, strength through struggle, that really illustrates it. This whole situation reminded me of that, and the story of a young boy who found a butterfly cocoon and brought it inside to observe it. After some time, he watched as a butterfly was struggling to break free from its confinement in the cocoon, and it created a small hole, but then its body was too large to get through that little hole, and exhausted that butterfly, it became still. Wanting to help, and with good intentions, the boy took a pair of scissors and snipped a small slit in the cocoon. The butterfly emerged easily then, but its wings were underdeveloped and crumpled. The boy expected the butterfly to take flight with all its beautiful colors and to fly off into the sunshine. But it couldn't. Instead, it could only drag its weak, fragile body along the ground. It could not fly. What the boy didn't understand with all his good intentions is that the butterfly needed the struggle to gain strength and fill its wings with blood. The struggle to get out of the cocoon was an essential part of its development, preparing it for flight. But by intervening, the boy unintentionally hindered the butterfly's growth and development, and it never flew. This story is such a clear picture of how, in our eagerness to help and to intervene, we can sometimes stunt the development of those we care about. Or when we're going, God, fix me. Why is it having to be, fix this situation? Why does it have to be so difficult? And we shake fists at God and go, what are you doing? As that He knows that to be the person that He's created us fully to be, we're going to have to go through things that are going to strengthen us in our character and our resolve and our trust in Him. And otherwise, we can remain weak and not as strong and not able to handle the things that He wants to give us to walk in. It takes wisdom and discernment to know when to step in and when to step back and let God work through other people's struggles. And as a mum or as someone, you're surrounded by people you care about, it really is, you need to just know when to get in there and know when to stand back. The butterfly needed to fight its way out of that cocoon so it could soar in life. Another illustration of how we need to be refined sometimes by things that are uncomfortable is how gold is refined by fire. Peter used that illustration in the Bible, and he says, when he talks about gold refining process as a metaphor for how God works in our lives. Fire tests and purifies gold by heating it until all the impurities rise to the surface and can be removed. What's left is pure 24-karat gold, precious and valuable. This refining process is often uncomfortable, and so are the struggles and challenges we face. But just like fire has to be used to purify gold, it's the difficult, uncomfortable moments that refine us and draw out our strengths, purifying our character and making us more like the person that God designed us to be. I have a saying that God sometimes allows us to be uncomfortable as a catalyst for change. And we love to be comfortable, but He sometimes shakes things up a little bit to push us forward and to catapult us into the next season of our life rather than getting stuck. There's transition times in our life. And so He allows us to be uncomfortable as a catalyst to bringing new things in. Just like the butterfly had to struggle a little bit, and just like sometimes you're in the fire, you feel like, oh my gosh, it's hot here and I'm under pressure. But that's how gold is refined too. And it brings all the impurities up and we can get rid of them. And then we're left with the precious product underneath. And that's how God wants to work in our lives too. But it takes learning to trust Him and His timing and process, because it's tempting to want everything to have a smooth path for ourselves as well as our loved ones. But often the best thing we can do is wait and pray and trust. Actually, that's always the thing to do, is to wait and don't act unless the Lord directs us, and to pray. Pray for those people that you care about. Pray for your own life and trust the process and God's timing. Just like the butterfly needs to wrestle its way out of the cocoon to build strength, and just like the gold needs the heat of a fire to be purified, we too need to allow the process to unfold on God's terms and His timeline. One of my daughters, Shara Rose, she has a song that says there's purpose in the process. And even when we cannot see that God is working in the background, He's working in the process of our lives. And there's always a purpose in it. And there's never any failures in life if we trust God. There's only lessons. There's lessons, and He's going to make something beautiful in its time. And if there's no waste of time if we learn from it. If we learn from all the lessons and we grow to be bigger and better people on the inside and more gracious with those around us. But it's learning to trust God's timing and His process, and knowing that He holds it all together. He's a big God, and to see from His perspective rather than getting down in the trenches and only being able to see from what we can see in life. He says, come up. Come up where the air is clear and there's no more cares and worries. It says in Colossians that we're seated in heavenly places with Him. So He encourages us to come up and see from His perspective, from a heavenly point of view. Because boy, when you get up on the mountains, when you see from up there, when if you've ever climbed up to a height and you look down, everything that maybe looked gigantic when you're down there in the valley, when you're up high, it's like, everything comes into perspective, and you see the big picture and you see the process and you can see how everything is working together in the landscape. And it's the same with our life. So if you're struggling today and you're struggling to learn to just trust in God's timing and process, picture yourself coming up above it and to look down from God's point of view and with His perspective, because that's where you're seated already when you know Him. He says, come up and sit with me. And don't think of yourself as this little ant or scurrying around. You're a royal priest. You're part of His family. You're called and chosen. And He says, I've got a purpose for you. And even though it may be tempting to want the smooth path and the path that is least resistance, it's in the struggle sometimes that we're forged the character and the strength and the faith that is going to make you a mighty man or a mighty woman of God. We can cheer from the sidelines when we're looking at others too. And, don't get in there and just try to fix everything. If you're a mum or a dad, or, you're at work, or you're the fix-it person, cheer from the sidelines, offer encouragement and support, but ultimately let God's purposes run their course. The moral of the story, it's often the tough times, the challenges, the delays, and the struggles that develop our strengths, shape our character, and refine our purpose. I'll say that again. It's often the tough times, the challenges, the delays, and the struggles that develop our strengths, shape our character, and refine our purpose. God's at work in the midst of difficulties. He's forging something truly beautiful and strong within us and within those around you. When you're facing struggles or watching loved ones go through their own, remember, God is at work here. Nothing is ever wasted if you learn from it, and the struggle is definitely not wasted. It's in these moments that God's refining, strengthening, and preparing you for something greater. Trust His process and find peace in knowing that, just like the butterfly emerging from its cocoon and gold being purified in the fire, you will come out stronger and more radiant on the other side. So let's trust God today, even when it's hard, and let the process unfold. He's got you, and He's got those you care about too. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. And all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight." And Romans 8:28, it's one of my favorites. It says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Have a great one today, knowing that God's in the midst of it all. Forged in the fire, He's going to strengthen you and make something beautiful. Thanks for tuning into The Dose by Dayle Kinney. I hope today's episode left you feeling inspired and ready to take on whatever comes next. If you enjoyed this dose of insight and motivation, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a little encouragement too. Until next time, remember, live with purpose, embrace the journey, and keep pushing forward. Take care and see you in the next episode.